Good evening, Whitemarsh. I'd like to call the Whitemarsh Township Board of Supervisors meeting for December 9th, 2021 to order. And I'm excited to invite our girls softball team, Catherine Gillespie and Maddie Carr, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you, girls. Fran, do you have any announcements?
Yes, Laura. Leaf collection ends this Friday, December 10th, which is tomorrow. Following the 10th, all leaf waste must be brown bagged or canned for disposal with yard waste on Wednesdays. The 2021 road resurfacing program began today. Please keep an eye out for road work on posted streets. A complete list of the roads can be found on the Township website homepage. Over to JC.
Thank you, Fran. I just want to highlight, last month the Township had its first ever tree giveaway, and we were able to successfully give away 110 trees throughout the Township. And I really want to thank Sean Halbum, our Assistant Township Manager, for all of his incredible efforts and hard work to help make this happen. I want to thank the Environmental Advisory Board, Deb Schriero and Karen Kabnick, Colonial Canopy Trees, the Public Works Department, and Parks and Rec. And Sean, if I've missed anybody, please add them to the list. But thank you so much for all that you did, and thank you to everyone else that I listed.
Greatly appreciated. Thank you so much. Thank you, JC. Next, before we get to the girls softball team, I want to pause for a moment and recognize my fellow chair, Board of Supervisor friend, Michael Drossner. Tonight is his last night on the board, and we are going to take a moment to recognize him and thank him for his service. He has been with us serving on the board, as well as a liaison to the Whitemarsh Township Authority, the Historical Area Review Board, and the Environmental Advisory Board. Is there anything I left out?
Sounds about right.
So I will greatly miss his compassion, dedication, engagement with the township. I'm thrilled to see his wife Mindy here. I'm sure she's going to be happy to have more time with him. But I want to thank you, Michael, for your time, and we have a couple things to give him. First, we have a PSATS declaration. If I can open it. A certificate of service for Michael Drossner.
Thank you, Laura.
And we have a gift from the township. These are some glasses engraved for Michael that you can open whenever you desire.
Thank you very much.
And I don't know if the rest of the board has any other comments, but I would like to stand and congratulate you and thank you. And we can have some pictures.
Well, thank you, Laura. Laura, thank you. Thank you for the kind words. I appreciate it. I will certainly miss you as well. I have a feeling we will certainly stay in touch. It's been a really incredible 6 years serving on the board, a wonderful way to serve the community, to learn more about local government, to be a good steward for our tax dollars, and supporting our incredible staff who provide really excellent services to our community and to our residents. You know, to Rick and Sean with the township, to Sean Kilkenny, our solicitor, Kristen, Charlie, and all of our professional staff. I also want to give a special shout out to Tom Blumstrom, who I know the softball coaches know well, head of Parks and Rec, and the Jack Fields Public Works. They've always been helpful as well. So it's been wonderful. We've achieved a lot over the past 6 years. I can't possibly go back over all of it. The recent stuff, of course, preserving the Highlands, which will be official tomorrow, God willing. Abolition Hall. I look back on Miles Park project. So many wonderful items to be a part of. So again, I appreciate the kind words. I appreciate the presence, and appreciate the support of the community over the past 6 years. So thanks, everybody.
Can I have one with Mindy or two, please?
Meanwhile, I'm thrilled to share tonight with the softball team. Obviously, I think most of you know how much I care about youth sports. So I'm excited to turn it back over to Laura so we can honor the team, the coaches, and the families.
Nice segue. Yeah, perfect. So congratulations. We have the 12U girls softball team we're recognizing tonight as winning the Babe Ruth 12U Pennsylvania State Tournament. Congratulations. And in third place in the Babe Ruth Mid-Atlantic 12U tournament, I'm going to bring the coaches up. All of the girls get a certificate from the township, and we're going to call the names up. Fran and Michael, would you mind being at front? I'll read it to you and then pass it down.
Do that.
Our coaches are Chris Carr, if they could come up, Bill Gillespie, Jim Yozelinas, Chad Spiker, and Meg O'Rourke.
Round of applause for coaches.
Do you want to they're getting a picture.
Oh,
Okay, we're good. So I think what we'll do is I am going to read the girls' names. If they can come up, and then we can clap all at one time at the end. You got it. Okay, so we've got Megan O'Rourke, coach. Chad Spiker, coach. Jim Yozelinas. All right.
Say it quickly. That works.
Yes. Bill Gillespie. Chris Carr.
Thank you.
Olivia Edwards, outfield. Olivia Bragg, third base and outfield. JJ Miros, shortstop. Gianna Yozelinas, third base. Madeline Kane, outfield. Kyle Corcoran, right field. Nava Pettis, third base. Megan Profrock, pitcher and outfield. Maddie Carr, second base. Alice Palumbo, catcher and outfield. Emma Paducah, first base. Lena DeLuca, pitcher. Josie Spiker, outfield. Kat Gillespie, catcher.
Round of applause for the girls. Good job, girls. Why don't we grab the back? Why don't we grab that?
Girls, can you all
Let's go in
come?
front of the
Yep.
coaches and then we'll.
Bill,
go
maybe
to
you
this,
and Chris will grab it.
Rick will be.
Oh. Yeah.
Everybody can take their mask off for the picture. Take your masks off for the picture.
All right, everyone.
Great job, girls and coaches.
Girls, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you want to hang out, we're going to talk about some zoning and conditional uses.
Exciting stuff.
They can
You
stay.
leave here.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Take care.
Thank you, guys.
See you, Bill.
Thanks, Bill. Congratulations,
Hey, guys.
everybody.
Thank you.
It's awesome.
Just like the guy.
See ya.
I can't wait, though. I'm not done with Michael yet, though.
Oh, really?
Oh,
I didn't
okay.
make any, no, we'll wait till the end, but I didn't make any comment because they were. That's a good idea.
Yes, I
Hope
do.
it's on the microphone.
I'm good. Thank you, everybody, for your patience as we let the room settle a little bit. The energy, I have to say, was a little more fun a little a moment ago.
We hope you all bring that same energy when it's your time to speak.
Just to get this part off our agenda, do I have a motion to adopt the meeting minutes from November 4th?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing for conditional use 03-21, Palardy, 462 Germantown Pike, for a medical office in the VC1 Village Commercial District.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Kilkenny, whenever you are ready.
So there was a motion, a second. Was there a vote, Madam Chair, to
Oh, I'm
open the
sorry.
public hearing? Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I'm going to go ahead and mark some exhibits for the record. T1 will be a proof of publication of this hearing in the Times Herald, November 24th and December 1st, 2022. T2 will be an application with floor plan and photographs. T3 will be a lease agreement. T4 will be a property owner consent letter dated October 8th, 2021. T5 will be the applicant meeting notification letter dated October 26, 2021. T6 will be the resident meeting notification letter dated October 27, 2021. T7 will be the zoning ordinance compliance review dated October 26, 2021. T8 will be a posting of notice dated December 1st, 2021. And T9 will be the Whitemarsh Township Planning Commission recommendation drafting minutes of meeting of November 9th, 2021. Motion recommending approval of the application. Being this is a conditional use hearing, let me just explain a little bit of the process. Mr. Guttenplan will give a brief explanation of the conditional use. There will be a presentation as such and to see if there are any other exhibits that need to be marked. The Board of Supervisors will have the opportunity to ask any questions. The public would have the opportunity to comment. Because it's a conditional use, which is a quasi zoning kind of procedure, I have to ask, is anybody requesting what's called party status? Party status does not mean that you can't comment at the end of this. Anybody can go ahead and comment. Party status basically is that you would have the opportunity to cross-examine or call witnesses on your own as part of this conditional use hearing. Is anybody requesting party status? Okay, hearing nobody's requesting party status, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Guttenplan for a brief explanation.
Thank you very much. This is a conditional use in the VC1 district under section 116-290C3 to allow a medical office in the district at 462 Germantown Pike. The nature of the medical office in this case is a chiropractor, Dr. Palardy, who is here this evening. You heard the exhibits, and the last exhibit, T9, was a recommendation from the Planning Commission. They made a recommendation for approval at the November 9th, 2021 meeting. At this point, what I would like to do is introduce the applicant's attorney, Carmen DeGisi, and he can proceed from here with his applicant. And I do have the 3 exhibits ready to project.
Okay. And Carmen, if you have any witnesses, perhaps it might be easier just to have them all sworn in by the court reporter.
Certainly. We do have Dr. Christopher Palardy, who will be providing testimony this evening. As Mr. Guttenplan stated, Dr. Palardy is seeking conditional use approval for a chiropractor's office. Is that right?
We're just, I figured you could go ahead, but just swear in any witnesses you had, so it's taken care of, that's all.
If you would kindly raise your hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you will give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Okay.
It's Christopher Palardy?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'll let Mr. Palardy provide his testimony to the board.
May I take my mask down?
Yes.
Thank you. Good evening. As we were discussing, my name is Christopher Palardy, and I'm a doctor of chiropractic. I've submitted a conditional use application for a medical and dental office conditional use in VC1 Commercial District, Subdistrict 1. I'm requesting approval for the use of my 200 square foot space. It's a single office room, and it's located at 462 Germantown Pike. And in that space, I will provide chiropractic services to 1 patient at a time and by appointment only. I would be the sole employee of the office, and I intend to operate 4 days a week for approximately 20 hours. In a typical week, I hope to provide chiropractic services to 20 to 25 patients. For approval of my application, my conditional use must comply with the conditions outlined in the following ordinances. Those were sections 116.37.f through 1 through 8, section 116, 184.d5, section 116-290.c.3, and then section 116-292. My conditional use does in fact comply with and meet all of the conditions in these ordinances for conditional use as medical dental office under section 116-290.c.3 of the Whitemarsh Township zoning ordinance for a property in the VC1 Village Commercial District, Subdistrict 1. The proposed use is consistent with the immediate neighborhood, has sufficient parking, will not have any adverse effects on the neighborhood, adjacent properties, traffic, the community, nor public services. Accordingly, I respectfully request that the board approve my application.
And if I could, let me just show the 3 exhibits that are here. This is a photograph of the building at 462 Germantown Pike. It is a multi-office building, and most of you would know it as the former location of the Whitemarsh Township Authority. This is a floor plan of Dr. Palardy's area showing the 200 square feet and where he would have the various facilities, a chiropractic table in the back, a desk, and a bookcase. It's just a very simple floor plan. And finally, a photograph of the actual space that he will be leasing.
Thank you.
So this evening, we do not have any other witnesses for the board. As Dr. Palardy did provide the testimony that his conditional use proposal does comply with all of the conditions listed and identified by the board. If there's any questions, either he or I will be happy to answer them.
What are the other offices in that building used for?
So I actually have an office in that building, so I can speak to that. My office is actually across from this one here. There is a few small businesses in there on the second floor, which is where it's being proposed. There is a counselor, a therapist that sees patients maybe once or twice a week, from what I can tell. There is a gentleman that has a printing business that just has an office in that space. And I believe there's a few other small businesses on the first floor that essentially just house an office that, as far as I can tell, do not see any customers or clients coming into the building.
Thank you.
So this is a very small space, and I didn't see any accommodation for a waiting area. Is it my understanding that the appointments will be staggered such that there will not be a need to have a waiting area?
Well, I'll let Dr. Palardy speak to the exact method he'll use for staggering or scheduling. If you want to discuss that? Sure.
So my plan is I'll build in a buffer of about like 10, 15 minutes. That way, if I do run over, I still have space, just to create that time that's really dedicated to be free. It's not meant to be consumed. And then otherwise, it would just be whoever's scheduled up next. They would need to text me before they enter the building so that I'm just kind of giving them the okay, the room's clear, we can proceed.
Okay, thank you.
Any other board comments? Questions? Okay. Do we have any public comments at this time? Okay, seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Are we comfortable to move this down? I even see it here? There it is. Okay, do I have a motion to approve conditional use 03-21 Palardy, 462 Germantown Pike for a medical office in the VC1 Village Commercial District?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Okay, tonight we have another public hearing. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing for a zoning ordinance amendment related to parking requirements?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Gutenplan?
Let me go ahead and just mark some exhibits first for this
Sure.
public hearing, if that's okay, Chair. T1 will be a copy of the proof of publication in the Times Herald dated November 23rd, 2021 and November 30th, 2021. T2 will be a draft of this ordinance. T3 will be a transmittal of a draft ordinance to the Montgomery County Law Library dated November 19th, 2021. T4 will be an attestation of ordinance accompanying transmittal to the Law Library dated November 19th, 2021. T5 will be the Montgomery County Planning Commission review dated October 29th, 2021. T6 will be the Whitemarsh Planning Commission recommendation, draft minutes of meeting of November 9th, 2021, a motion recommending Board of Supervisors approval of the ordinance as proposed. Being that this is a public hearing on zoning, Mr. Guttenplan will give a brief explanation of what these zoning amendments are. The board then would have the opportunity to ask any questions. Then there would be an opportunity for public comment. The board then could go ahead and continue this public hearing if they wanted more information on the record at a later date that would not require additional advertising, or close the public hearing and take action on the text amendment. Turn it over to Mr. Guttenplan.
Thank you very much. This is one I'm very happy to be presenting. This is our first ordinance that has come out of the zoning ordinance update process that was started earlier this year as one of the implementation activities for the comprehensive plan update that was adopted just 1 year ago. And this is basically updating most of our parking requirements and getting them modernized and in keeping with current standards. And you'll hear a short presentation in a moment about the specific amendments. But I just want to say that this was the product of the Zoning Update Steering Committee in consultation and working also with the Township Planning Commission. And everything in the ordinance is consistent with the committee and the Planning Commission's recommendations. And toward that end, the Planning Commission reviewed the final ordinance that you're seeing tonight, and at the November 9th meeting, they made a positive recommendation to adopt the ordinance as it is currently proposed. And with that, I would like to turn it over to Kimberly Baptiste, who is the project manager from Bergman, who has prepared the comprehensive plan and is now working with us on the zoning update. And she has a short PowerPoint presentation to explain this amendment. Kimberly?
Thank you, Charlie, and good evening, everyone. I think you're gonna, you wanted to keep the excitement going, and what doesn't say exciting other than parking regulations.
Well done.
But I do think these are actually exciting because they are advancing and getting your zoning code up to current standards, as Charlie alluded to. So these specific revisions, in some instances, replace existing content with regards to off-street parking minimums, and then with regards to the reserve parking and the electric vehicle charging stations, these are new additions to your existing zoning code. So with regards to the off-street parking minimums, one of the things as we were doing the comprehensive plan and evaluating the existing zoning code, noted that some of the existing regulations were really outdated, not consistent with current best practices. That was the case with regards to some of your minimum parking requirements that really over-required parking for specific uses. So the first thing we did was reduce parking minimums where appropriate. It wasn't reduced across the board, but there were some uses where parking minimums were reduced. We also, again, consistent with best practices, looked at how we were regulating parking. In many instances, your existing code was regulating based on people or number of employees versus square footage. So we made updates appropriate with those dimensions. We removed some uses from your use table that were outdated or no longer applicable, added new uses such as doggy daycare, microbrewery, current uses that weren't addressed in your current code that you're more likely to see coming into the township that you want to be able to proactively address. And then a really simple update, we alphabetized it so it'd just be easier for people to use and find their use. This is, I won't spend any time on this, this is just a sample of the off-street parking minimum table. So again, the permitted uses on the left side and then the minimum requirements on the right-hand side. One additional change we did make was also instituting a maximum for parking. So typically you see a minimum, these are the base that you have to provide. Oftentimes codes don't provide a maximum, which does allow communities, and I will say this is a trend, doing what I'm about to talk about, they allow a developer to come in or a user to come in and just build as many as they want, even if they're not actually needed. So in order to prevent that, again, in the goal of really reducing impervious surfaces and environmental impacts in the community, providing a maximum. So right now, if you had a use that the minimum requirement was, say, 50 spaces, the maximum spaces they could build without a variance would be 55. So 10% over the minimum requirement is the current maximum that was added to the code. The reserve parking, the purpose of the reserve parking was, again, to promote reduction in impervious surfaces and where some uses don't need all the minimum parking, and that's been proven through case studies. Individual applicants might have additional facts to support the notion that they don't need all of the parking that's required. In those instances, reserve parking would be allowed, and as we've defined reserve parking in the code, it is parking spaces that are required, right, by the minimum table, but they're shown on the development site plan, but they are not constructed at time of site plan approval or a time where the development moves forward. So it allows these parking spaces to be held in reserve, so they could be built at a future time, but recognizing they may not be needed, that you're not going ahead and creating parking that isn't necessary within the township. So the required parking, again, the Planning Commission would make a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors. The Board of Supervisors would be able to authorize up to 50% reduction in the minimum parking requirements that would be held in reserve and would be built at a future time if determined necessary. So the sub-regulations in this section, again, talk about the criteria. So it notes that those need to be indicated on a site plan, those spaces. They need to be able to be built in the future, still must conform with other requirements such as landscaping requirements. Again, the Board of Supervisors has the authority to approve these, and enforcement would be through the zoning officer or township engineer. So they could, if the use changed or there was proof that the existing parking wasn't sufficient to support the use, the township could go back to that property owner and make them construct those additional parking spaces. And then lastly, with regards to the electric vehicle charging station, so more and more municipalities really across the country are starting to encourage and in some instances regulate electric vehicle charging stations. This is a really progressive and cutting edge approach, so I applaud the township for even thinking in this manner with regards to electric vehicle charging stations. We are, as defined within the ordinance, identifying the size and location of electric vehicle charging stations as part of required parking requirements. We are regulating the design, so what do those charging stations look like? How are they situated on the site? We have regulations that dictate maintenance and ensure maintenance of the facilities. We are requiring a certain number of electric vehicle charging stations be incorporated as part of site plan approval. So you can see the chart on the side here. Different sizes of parking facilities have different requirements for whether electric vehicle charging stations are required. Under 20 spaces, not required. An option, and they'd still have to, if they opted to install one, would still be required to comply with all of these other regulations, but not required if under 20 spaces are in a parking facility. Also address accessibility, so making sure barrier-free access, ADA accessibility, fees, so property owners are allowed to charge a fee for use of the charging station. And then with regards to signage, making sure that those spaces are signed, so only electric vehicles can utilize them. And then, if there's hours of operations, those would be included on the signage as well. And that is it, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Kimberly, that was really helpful. Thank you for that presentation. Yeah, and your time on everything. It's really exciting to have this happening finally. Do we have any board comments or questions?
I have a quick question, just as a question. When you talked about the number of charging stations and the number of spaces and how those relate to each other, is that just in a single parking lot area, or for instance, like if a townhouse community were being built and they had a bunch of the different cutouts that show up around each cluster of townhouses, would that 20 number be counted in, counting all those pockets together?
It's based on the cumulative number
Okay.
of spaces required.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's no other questions. Kimberly, I want to thank you for your patience in dealing with us on the steering committee as we pepper you with questions and try to push this along in a certain direction. And I want to thank Charlie for helping drive this to where we are today. This is the first of many ordinances that we're going to be seeing as a result of the effort to revise our zoning ordinance coming out of the comprehensive plan update. And your continued patience with us as we tackle these other issues is appreciated in advance. So thanks to both of you, to everybody on the steering committee, and more good things to come.
Thanks, Vince. It's not as bad as he's making it sound.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any public comments? Seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, motion carries. All right, so. And this is ordinance. Do I have a motion to adopt ordinance 1009, authorizing the zoning ordinance amendment to Article 26 of Chapter 116, zoning, to revise requirements for the off-street parking and to add requirements for reserve parking and electric vehicle charging stations?
So moved.
Second.
You call the roll?
Yeah, I'll call the
Okay.
roll. Mr. McCusker?
Yes.
Ms. Toll?
Yes.
Mr. Manuel?
An enthusiastic yes.
Mr. Drossner?
Just a regular yes.
Chair Nestor?
An enthusiastic yes. Thank you. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you
Thank you.
again, Kimberly. Thank you, Charlie.
We are waiting this day for a long time.
And
Thank
thank
you,
you,
Kimberly.
Vince. Okay, moving down to board public discussion items. We have a review of subdivision land development 0514, 901 Washington Partners LP, 901 Washington Street. This is a final plan for 62 townhomes.
Turn it over to Mr. Guttenplan for a brief explanation.
Okay, thank you. You've seen this plan before. This plan has been before you a few times, most recently in March, at your March 11th, 2021 meeting. You granted conditional preliminary plan approval. Subsequent to that, the final plan was prepared by the applicant and reviewed. Just as a reminder, the final plan is really just a cleanup, taking care of all the edits, et cetera, that need to be done to the plans, taking care of various legal documents like homeowners association documents, et cetera. There are no opportunities between preliminary and final to make design changes. The law and our ordinances basically say the final plan has to mimic the preliminary plan. So all those decisions have been behind us. We're really looking at just the final plan in order for the applicant to move toward recording of the plan. So the final plan was reviewed by the Planning Commission, and at their October 26, 2021 meeting, they made a recommendation for approval. That recommendation was contingent upon the applicant complying with the various final plan reviews that were done, and to make certain changes to the emergency evacuation plan. These were minor changes that the Planning Commission felt were appropriate. They've been looked at by Nick Weaver, the fire marshal, and he has no issue with the changes that were made. And the revised evacuation plan was part of your packet. So if you had an opportunity, you might have seen a few red line changes that were made throughout that document. With that, I will turn it over to Sarah Peck, on behalf of the development team, is going to present a very short PowerPoint explaining the final plan and where it stands. Sarah?
Thank you, Charlie.
The remote is right here. It's set.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Wonderful to see you in person. The last time I saw you was Zoom, so. Appreciate the chance to be here today. I am Sarah Peck, and I own River Homes LLC, which is the developer of the proposed project. My company is mainly known as Progressive New Homes LLC, and I do only infill development that is proximate to trains and towns and walkable to existing infrastructure. I'm partnering in this project with 901 Washington Partners. With me tonight is Jim Beasy. He's one of the partners associated with the owner of the property, as well as Matt Rosenfeld, who's with me from my company. Tonight I'm just going to highlight the property one more time for your benefit in hopes that we might achieve a vote of final plan approval. It's been a little over 2 years. We first presented in September of 2020, I guess it was. Wait a minute, no, 19. Excuse me. Time flies when you're having fun. I think it was 9 meetings with the Planning Commission, several before you all, and 3 in front of your Shade Tree Commission. I think the rigor with which we've been engaging with staff and with the public reflects the fact that this is the very first riverfront development under your RDD zoning. And of course, everyone wants to make sure the first one is, the best and meets with all the requirements and all the standards. And I'm happy to say I think we've done that. I think you'll be proud of this once, once it's underway. This plan represents a number of iterations when we finally got through the process, and just to highlight some of the things that changed as a result of your and your Planning Commission's input. One being that we have a public trail here now, a riverfront trail that's open to the public with some parking here for the public. This will all be eased to the public, this access drive, and a nice big green area also accessible to the public. Secondly, we have a separate entrance for the community, separate and apart from David's Bridle. Even though this is all part of the land in question, essentially we're easing this separation of entrance to the more industrial use, so we can separate appropriately the 2 types of land uses. We have 62 homes, 16 of which are conventional townhomes. So these buildings right here represent conventional townhomes, and the rest of them, and this also, and the rest of them are what we call duplex townhomes. There's 2 in each building footprint. The advantage of that is that we can reduce the price and make them a little more affordable to a lot of the, among other people, the people who are renting now near or in Whitemarsh Township who might be interested in buying a home for the first time, first-time home buyers who could then grow roots and stay in Whitemarsh or stay in the Conshohocken area. Of course, the train is right here within walking distance. And we anticipate the townhomes to be appealing to empty nesters or people who don't want the maintenance anymore of a larger home, but who still want, the attraction of new homes which are sustainable and more energy efficient. And among other things, all of the homes will have riverfront views or the potential for riverfront views, which is of course one of the whole objectives. The townhomes themselves will be a little bit more contemporary in look, and here's a rear view. They come in different modules. This one happens to have 3 in a building, some have 2 in a building, some have 4. Notably, you'll see that there's outdoor living spaces associated with the roof decks up here, and also balconies back here. And the garages are 2-car garages, and they are hidden from view. And here's a quick view of the floor plan. You can see on the first floor we have a 2-car garage. Your big living dining spaces here with a tall ceiling, and then a total of either 3, or potentially this loft could become a 4th bedroom should somebody want that. But basically it's a 3-bedroom, 2.5 or 3.5 bath dwelling. The duplex townhomes evoke the industrial heritage of the site, pay homage to that, and again, we have hidden garages behind, 2 cars for every home, albeit in a tandem stacked configuration, and some of them also have driveways. Once again, roof decks, and you're looking here at the front home, and this is the rear home, 2 homes in each pod, and just in general, this is 1 home in behind, and this is 1 home in front. And then each person has a 2-car garage that's split side to side on the garage level. Of course, we're in a floodplain, being that it's a riverfront development. We've taken a lot of pains to make sure that the structures will be compatible with the floodplain location. Just these are some of the highlights. Number 1, we're keeping the existing pad that was the foundation of the original manufacturing concern, which is already raised 5 feet above the natural grade. And then on top of that, it's almost only garages on that first floor, and the foyers that you saw are built with moisture-resistant materials. So your living spaces are 10 feet above, the foyer, which is already 5 feet or 6 feet above the natural grade. And then in addition, each of the buildings is built with vents, flood vents, that allow the water to, in the event it did ever get that high, would just flow naturally through the garage level and ensure no hydrostatic pressure for the buildings. And this is just an example of what, in another community, what this vent might look like. I just threw in here, this is a picture of the site during Isaias, which was obviously a very, very challenging flood, not quite as bad as Ida, but as you can see, the pad remained dry. And although I was not in town for Ida, I was told that the pad actually was dry in the case of Ida, even though Ida was a 100-year storm. These are remaining steps. We have to get our NPDES approved. It's submitted. It's been resubmitted. It should be forthcoming within the month. We do still need our sanitary sewer module voted on by this board. It's been sent to you from Whitemarsh Authority, and we're hoping that we'll be on the agenda for that in the next meeting. We would love to get an approval subject to your engineer approving it if possible, only because it's another 60 days for DEP to approve that. In addition, the sanitary pump station and force main are being reviewed by Conshohocken Authority. And finally, we are still working out with SEPTA the access coming through David's Bridal's frontage. It's been agreed to, and it's just being papered now in terms of legal documentation. And we will need your various, documentation through with the solicitor's office, some of which has already been approved, the homeowners association documents. Oh, and we did get the evacuation plan reviewed and approved by your fire marshal. So that's an overview, high level of the project. We would love to answer any questions and hopefully secure your approval this evening.
Thank you, Sarah. Do we have any board comments or questions? And Sean, just to clarify, this resolution would include all of it's contingent upon everything that was just stated.
Yes.
It was, it's included.
Yep.
And maybe Mr. Guttenplan or Ms. Heinrich, do you have any comments on this resolution, waivers or anything like that, or, recommendations?
I believe all of the documents that need to be still approved are mentioned in the various reviews as required to be obtained. So the resolution is contingent upon compliance with those reviews, and therefore it would incorporate the approval of those permits and other documents.
Thank you. Okay, do we have any public comments? Are you ready?
Go.
Okay. Seeing none, do I have a motion to adopt Resolution 2021-31 granting final plan approval for SLD 05-14, 901 Washington Partners LP 901 Washington Street for the construction of 62 homes?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Miller, will you please call the roll?
Mr. McCusker?
Yes.
Ms. Toll?
Yes.
Mr. Manuel?
Yes.
Mr. Drossner?
Yes.
Chair Nestor?
Yes. That passes. There you
Thank
go.
you very much.
Good luck to you.
Good luck.
Forward to getting started.
Yes, well, you certainly have had it vetted through various storms to some degree. Okay, moving down to other ordinances. Do I have a motion to adopt Ordinance 1010, fixing the tax rate millage at 2.3633 for all real property within Whitemarsh Township for the year 2022?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Miller?
Thank you, Chair Nestor. I'm going to walk through a PowerPoint that Charlie will put up, but the first good news is no tax increase in 2022 for Whitemarsh Township. The millage will remain the same as it was this year at 2.363. So we're really pleased, certainly with the work that the board has done throughout this budget process and working with staff to get to a balanced budget. So hopefully we're not having any technical difficulties, or you're going to give me this. Yeah. I get a clicker. This is exciting. Okay. And this PowerPoint is very similar to what you saw for the preliminary plan, but it certainly does show a balanced budget. As we described our budget process, we had numerous budget meetings after the work budget was provided to the supervisors on October 1st. Budget meetings in October, had another budget discussion as part of our quarterly departmental meeting. We had the preliminary budget, which was adopted last month, and then we're here for the final budget adoption. This is the most important thing, is that we have a balanced budget. Recall when we showed the work budget and preliminary budget was about $150,000 in a deficit. We've been able to get that to a balanced budget through a lot of positive revenue sources and some belt tightening on the expenditure side going through that process. I'm not going to go through all these numbers, but it's basically where we're seeing a lot of our revenue to get to that 9.5. I think this is a little bit better of a chart Should be no surprise, and we see this every year, earned income tax is our highest revenue. We do have the real estate tax, and then our Act 511 taxes. So you have our business privilege tax, amusement tax, local services, and our mercantile tax really lead the way for the revenues and that 19.5 million. As far as the expense goes, again, this is the numbers that we have. I'll show it in a graph form, which I think is a little bit better. Again, no surprise. Police, Public Works, they have the most employees and lead the way. And really, the employee cost is our largest cost, too, when you're talking throughout all the departments and really the benefits that we segregate out as well. So, again, very similar to what we see year to year, and we were able to make some adjustments there in order to be conservative and balance the budget on the expenditure side. Really what has changed? Obviously getting some good real estate tax revenue. Our earned income tax has really, each in these last few years has grown, which is quite remarkable. Obviously, with the pandemic, you're concerned about people losing jobs and so on. That's a direct impact to really the economy in Whitemarsh, and the economy there is doing really well. Real estate transfer taxes, we're still seeing some large properties, and we're seeing real estate. I mean, you all probably see it in terms of real estate. The cost of homes is continuing to rise. We see that with the real estate deed transfer tax. Health insurance costs, we've been able to reduce some of those costs, looking at some different plan options for some of our employees that will help with that. One of the big things is the minimum municipal obligation in the police pension plan. With having, as you see in your retirement plans, having some good years, we've been able to reap some of those rewards with the police pension plan. As that does well, our MMO is able to decrease. This slide is looking at the annual average collections in the real estate. We've had, as far as the transfer goes, this is when you have a transfer of properties. You can kind of see when we get to 2017, that's when we've had some of our larger developments that have been going on. Those have really are finishing up this year in 2021, but you can kind of see we've had kind of a steady kind of increase, and a lot of that is also to the home prices that we're seeing here in Whitemarsh Township. The increase in the annual percentage in assessed value, this is something that for many years when I got here in 2013, it remained very flat. We've seen that increase as we've added some housing stock to the municipality, and we expect that to kind of to level off for the next few years after seeing some increases since 2017, but obviously a positive for us. General fund debt, this is important as we've taken on debt for various projects, infrastructure projects and so on. We are continuing to pay that back, and we're seeing that, and that's what it's supposed to do, slightly increase as we are paying more of the principal as years go along. Your overall tax bill. Always being in municipal government, I love showing this because everybody wants to say my taxes are, which is very true, your taxes are, but this pie chart really shows you where your taxes are going. And it should be no surprise, as it would be in any municipality around here, your school district is your largest and goes all the way down to only 8% of your average $5,200 is going to Whitemarsh Township. So we think it's providing, this board provides a high level of service to the citizens for a very good price here in Whitemarsh. Unfortunately, Kevin could not be with us. He was on a trip, but he certainly wanted to send his sentiments to you, Supervisor Drossner, and wish everybody happy holidays as well. So I will answer any questions as it relates to the budget. We obviously have a lot of other budget things that we will go over and kind of talk about. This is one of the first pieces of approval of all the budgetary documents for 2022.
Thank you, Rick. You did a great job, especially with Kevin being out.
Thank you.
Yep. Do we have any board comments or questions? Any public comments? Okay. Mr. Miller, will you please call the roll?
Mr. McCusker?
Yes.
Ms. Toll,
Yes.
Mr. Manuel,
Yes.
Mr. Drossner.
Yes.
Chair Nestor.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
You're gonna start a whole new thing.
Must be true.
All right, so moving along on budget items. Do I have a motion to adopt Resolution 2021-32, authorizing the 2021 budget amendments?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Chair Nestor. These, again, are instruments that we do each and every year. These are, the first is being the budget amendments. This is a transfer from our general fund over to our capital equipment outlay. Numerous years ago, we started to do basically a depreciation account. We have an account that we have as a line item in our budget for public works. When they don't spend those monies, instead of putting it back into the fund balance, we transfer that over into a reserve for future large capital equipment purchases. That has grown and has really helped the township and prevent those large trucks that come through that are collecting your leaves or plowing. They can be $250,000, so very expensive. And as we begin to save for those, we're not hit with oh my God, we have to come up with that money in 1 year. So that's really proven to be a good tool for us, and that's what this is doing here, moving $50,000 over to that equipment reserve.
Excellent, thank you. Any questions from the board? Any public comments? Mr. Miller, please call a roll.
Mr. McCusker?
Yes.
Ms. Toll?
Yes.
Mr. Manuel?
Yes.
Mr. Drossner?
Yes.
Chair Nestor.
Yes. And moving on, do I have a motion to adopt Resolution 2021-33, authorizing 2021 interfund balance transfers?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Chair Nestor. This is moving within funds, so we have funds that we would normally house in our general fund and then move them over to other existing funds. For instance, our capital equipment reserve, our park and recreation, light and hydrant, refuse, capital fund. That is looking, again, these are 2021 transfers that we are making at this time and moving them over and housing them in different funds so we can track them in those funds. It's something that we do each and every year when we go through the budget process. And again, this is for 2021 funds.
Very good. Any questions? Any public comments? Mr. Miller, please call the roll.
Mr. McCusker?
Yes.
Ms. Toll?
Yes.
Mr. Manuel?
Yes.
Mr. Drossner?
Yes.
Chair Nestor.
Yes. Great, thank you. Do I have a motion to adopt Resolution 2021-34, authorizing an operating and capital plan budget for 2022?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Chair Nestor. So as I mentioned when I went through the presentation, we were able to balance the budget. And this is the point where we are actually approving our operating budget and we are approving our capital budget. So first we'll start with the operating budget, and what you see before you and was posted on the website is a lot of the positives that we saw in 2021. Mentioned it in the presentation, real estate transfer tax, we are still seeing very strong numbers as homes are continuing to sell and resell. So that has really upped, that's $100,000 extra dollars that we weren't anticipating when we did the work in preliminary budgets. Something else is our business privilege taxes, which is very interesting. That's a $200,000 increase that we are seeing based on those revenues that are coming in, which again, it kind of shows the local economy. That's based on gross receipts for businesses that operate in Whitemarsh Township. So again, you look at some of the economic indicators that you can see in a budget, that's a big one. As we see that increased mercantile tax, amusement tax, those Act 511 taxes really kind of show how we're doing from an economic standpoint in the township, which it seems very strong. as well as permits. A lot of people are investing in their homes. You probably see it in your own neighborhoods, additions, alterations, and so on. We've been conservative on those numbers, and we're continuing to see folks reinvest in their homes, and then you see that here in some permit revenue. We've kind of consolidated a lot of different other revenue streams there. As far as expenditures, we reduced our refuse fund, $200,000. That was a transfer, so that's been a positive. Looking at 2022, we did take a little bit of a conservative approach when we looked at the real estate tax revenue, just a slight reduction in that, only $28,000, and again, some miscellaneous revenues to kind of offset that. There's a chart that goes into kind of, real big detail of all of it, but the net is that a $19.5 million budget is set for the operating piece of that. So that is the one piece that we talked about. The second piece that we'll talk about is the capital budget, which is the township's capital improvement plan. It's a 3-year capital improvement plan from the years 2022 through 2024, where we look at numerous, through different departments, capital expenditures. It's an approximate just about $3.5 million plan over those 3 years. I'm not going to go through all of it. I will touch on some things that have come up that's I know is very important to the board, and the board requested that they be included in this plan. And a lot of it has to do with stormwater. We kind of heard it from 901, and we've seen it across the township. And 2 of those projects that the board requested, one is Pine Tree, which is over in Whitemarsh Valley Farms, and the other is Jackson Drive. And both of those, at the request of the board, have been put into the capital improvement plan to start next year. Where that revenue is coming from is the American Rescue Plan funds. We can use that for stormwater projects. Recall that's the federal money that municipalities were considered because we're under a population of, I believe it's 25,000. A non-entitled community is what we're called with other non-entitled communities. We received this year just under $1 million in 2021. In 2022, we'll receive the same amount, just under $1 million. So just under $2 million that we'll have funds to expend. And these are 2 of the projects that the board has identified in working with the township engineer, Ms. Heinrich, that have been placed in the capital improvement plan. There's a lot of other items in there. I certainly don't want to go through them. I certainly can answer any questions, but I know that those were 2 that the board requested and identified, and I just wanted to highlight those 2 that are in the plan. And with that, that is our operating budget, and that is our capital budget. It's a lot of information. I went through it in kind of a Cliff Note version because we've heard it a lot, but I'm happy to expand or answer any questions that you might have on the budget. I will say, I did mention Kevin is not here. Kudos to his staff, Kevin, Terry, Mary. They've all done an excellent job in working with all of our department heads. Our department heads spent a lot of time working on this and certainly bringing it to the board in order to work with the board so they can make those types of decisions that you have made and requested a staff to put in the budget to be considered tonight.
Thank you, Rick. I know it's a lot of time and effort, and I really appreciate you highlighting about the stormwater management, because I think that really is important to highlight, that we have really listened to what's happening in the township and adjusted course to try to help our residents. I know Westaway has been underway with the stormwater management, and so I'm pleased to see that this is being addressed too in other areas. Any board comments or questions? Any public comments? Yes, please come on up.
Yeah, Nancy Martell, I'm sure you all know me. I really just wanted to express my appreciation for adding that extra, to the budget. I do really appreciate that. Sue was hoping she'd be here today, but something came up for her. So I just wanted to say thank you to all of you for, being considerate and, understanding the issues that we have. I appreciate it.
Well, I very much appreciate you coming and sitting through all the meetings so far to hear this. It
helped. I believe it did help because you guys understood, how we all felt.
Absolutely. Well, the public engagement is so important.
Yes,
So we
yes.
appreciate you coming.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you, Chris.
Any other public comments? Okay, Mr. Miller, please call a roll.
Mr. McCusker?
Yes.
Ms. Toll?
Yes.
Mr. Manuel?
Yes.
Mr. Drossner?
Yes.
Chair Nestor?
Yes. Thank you. Do I have a motion to adopt Resolution 2021 -35, authorizing the 2022 refuse fee of $340 per residential dwelling unit for the collection and disposal of trash and recycling?
So moved.
Second.
Whenever you're ready, sir.
Thank you, Chair Nestor. No change, $340 per residential dwelling unit will remain the same again in 2022 for trash and recycling and yard waste collection.
Very important service, very appreciated. Glad it's staying the same. Any board comments or questions? Any public comments? Mr. Miller, please call the roll.
Mr. McCusker?
Yes.
Ms. Toll?
Yes.
Mr. Manuel?
Yes.
Mr. Drossner?
Yes.
Chair Nestor?
Yes. Do I have a motion to adopt Resolution 2021-36, authorizing the 2022 assessment rate for the street light at 45 cents per foot, safety light at 24 cents per foot, and the fire hydrant at 14 cents per foot?
So moved.
Second.
Again, no
Yep.
change in the assessment for the streetlight and fire hydrant fees for 2022.
Wonderful. Any board comments? Public? Okay, Mr. Miller?
Mr. McCusker?
Yes.
Ms. Toll?
Yes.
Mr. Manuel?
Yes.
Mr. Drossner?
Yes.
Chair Nestor?
Yes. Do I have a motion to adopt Resolution 2021-37, authorizing the 2022 fee schedule, which will take effect on January 1st, 2022?
So moved.
Second.
So some minor changes here to the fee schedule. The bulk of it is Parks and Recreation. We set our fee schedule at the beginning of the year. We do it at the last meeting so that it takes effect on January 1 of the following year. The biggest change is Parks and Recreation. That happens every year. And those fees are changed because it's to cover the cost. There's been a cost model that Tom Blumstrom has put in place. We've been following that for about the last 5-6 years. And it has been very effective, and I think that we don't see any real issues when it comes to cost for the programs that are provided. The other changes are really just to try and simplify some of the fire marshal fees and consolidate it. This is something that our fire marshal, Nick Weaver, took a look at, and as he went through some consolidation, some just trying to make it more streamlined in the way in which their fee structure is put in place. I would say nothing really significant. I just think it's kind of cleaning it up and making sure that the costs cover our services that we provided in those different permitting procedures.
Excellent. Any board comments or questions? Any public comments? Mr. Miller, please call the roll.
Mr. McCusker?
Yes.
Ms. Toll?
Yes.
Mr. Manuel?
Yes.
Mr. Drossner?
Yes.
Chair Nestor?
Yes. Okay, so that is taking us through our resolutions tonight. Moving on to motions. Do I have a motion to authorize opting into the National Opioid Settlement Agreement and authorizing the Township Manager execute the necessary documents for this agreement?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Chair Nestor. This is something that many people may have seen on TV. It's gotten a lot of publicity, and this is a global settlement with several pharmaceutical and manufacturing companies related to opioids, and the settlement that has been negotiated through the state's Attorney General's office that has come down to the local political subdivisions where they have the option to opt in and potentially receive some funding in order to help along with the opioid problem that exists across our nation. Those funds could be used for treatment and other preventative measures. So we're not sure how much, if any, that we receive. The Solicitor's Office has reviewed this and is also recommending to Whitemarsh that we opt in and fill out the necessary paperwork in the event there are funds that do trickle all the way down to the local municipalities.
Very good. Thank you. Any board comments or questions? Do we have any public comments? Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Do I have a motion to approve Zanofsky? Am I close?
Zelenkowski?
Zinikovsky and Axelrod to audit the township financial statements for the years 2021 through 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Chair Nestor. We are doing this a month in advance. You're going to see this again at the reorganization meeting. The reason being is every 3 years, we go out and seek proposals for auditing services for the township. The township has been with an auditing firm for many, many years. It was Dreslin. Dreslin sold his firm at the end of last year to another firm that we stuck with because the auditor moved firms. We just, we're thinking that it's time to really take a hard look at it with our new finance director, Kevin Barron, coming in. He wanted to take a look at it. As we look at it, we feel the lowest responsible bid would be Zinikovsky and Axelrod. It is a move from a different firm, and hence why we want to do it a month in advance. Should the board approve this, it'll allow them to get started on the audit. Generally, auditors are starting in December. This change, they are going to have to do a little bit more than someone who is already in place moving forward. This would be for a 3-year term. It's very cumbersome to change year to year, so we've really engaged them on a 3-year term. Again, it's considered every year at the reorganization meeting, so it certainly is within the board's purview to change that, but that's what we based it on, would be a 3-year term for Zinikovsky and Axelrod.
Rick, I would just to clarify, the name is Zelenkowski, so it's spelled wrong on Kevin's memo. It's Zelenkof, Zelenkowski. I mean, for whatever that's worth.
No, it's important, and it's a tough name. Z and A is I've seen him speak before. That's what they say. Keep it simple. We're Z and A.
Thank you.
Who's going to pick that up next time?
I mean, what are you guys going to do with it?
Patrice is here.
Got it.
She's got it. She's got it. Excellent. Thank you, Rick, for that summary. Hopefully we can have this. I know they work with a lot of municipalities, so I know they're very experienced.
They do. Kevin vetted them, contacted many of their clients based on their proposal, and is also recommending it, and I agree. I endorse his recommendation as well.
Excellent. Any board comments or questions? Any public comments? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Do I have a motion to approve a hold harmless agreement for a fence in the ultimate right-of-way at 6022 Butler Pike?
So moved.
Second.
Turn it
Mr.
over to
Miller?
Mr. Guttenplain.
Mr. Guttenplain?
Thank you. Sorry, this is looks like a night shot. I'm not quite sure why, but the outlined parcel is the parcel in question. For orientation, it's about 1/3 of a mile north of Stenton Avenue on obviously the Whitemarsh side of Butler Pike, and Wedgwood Road is the next, or Wedgwood Drive is the next street up, just for orientation. This picture shows you an existing fence that, as far as we can tell, based on prior permits, has been there for at least 35 years. And when we looked in our records, there was no hold harmless agreement or prior waiver of damage rights document. giving permission for the fence to be in the ultimate right-of-way. The applicant has applied to replace this fence, and I've discussed this with the police department. They have no objection to keeping the fence there. The applicant would like the fence maintained because of the obvious closeness of the road. This is a building that was built in the 1600s, and they are concerned about rocks and other debris being thrown against the house by truck traffic and the like. So they would like to replace this fence, so the motion would be to approve the hold harmless agreement, which would then be recorded. After it's recorded, then we can issue the permit to replace the fence.
And Charlie, what kind of fence are they looking to replace it with? Do we know?
They're replacing the fence just like it is.
Oh, okay.
Same type of fence.
Thank you. Any board comments, questions? Any public comments? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion to approve the certificate of appropriateness for the installation of a backup generator at 6 Germantown Pike?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Charlie?
Okay, thank you. The first one is that 6 Germantown Pike is to install a fence at this property, which is 3 properties east of Butler Pike on the south side of Germantown Pike. It's a fairly prominent historic building, and the applicant would like to put a generator. Again, this is a photograph of the building, and the applicant would like to put a generator on the east side of the building, Germantown Pike being on top of this site plan. The generator here highlighted on the right-hand side, which is, if you look at it from Germantown Pike, the left-hand side of the building, but the east side of the building, to be clear. The HARB reviewed this on November 10th at their meeting, had no objection to it, and recommended a certificate of appropriateness be approved.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Any board comments? Any public comments? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Do I have a motion to approve the certificate of appropriateness for the barn conversion to a single-family home at 17 Catherine Lane?
So moved.
Second.
Charlie?
Thank you. This is in the development that you've seen a lot of certificates of appropriateness for. Maple Hill development, Mr. Payone's development. This is a kind of unique application. This is the site plan as it was approved, and 17 Catherine Lane is the one that's highlighted. When the land development was approved, there were 2 options for this barn. One was that it would be lots 17 and 19 might be combined if the barn was to be used as an accessory building to the historic house on lot number 19 Catherine Lane. The second option was to maintain it on its own lot and have it converted to a single-family home. The buyer has opted to do the latter, and that's what this application is for, to convert the barn to a single-family home, which includes a very small addition on the back of the barn. This was also reviewed by the HARB at their meeting on November 10th. These are some of the elevations of what it would look like. And the HARB recommended approval. There was some comment made by a member of the public about the lack of detail that was presented to HARB. HARB did not feel that that was a problem. They did raise questions and got sufficient answers from the owner concerning the materials, the colors, the addition, some doors and window questions. But we did conclude, they did make the recommendation for a certificate of appropriateness, but we did say that when the building department reviews the building permit, if they find that there is not sufficient material detail, that we would have it come back to the HARB at a future meeting. With that, there was a recommendation, as I say, for approval at this point as it was proposed.
Thank you for that, Charlie. I've toured the barn, so it's pretty amazing to see it stay and be converted to a home. I'm excited that they're doing something along that line. It's an interesting historical site. Any board comments or questions? Any public comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Yeah. Do I have a motion to authorize escrow release number 2 for Whitemarsh Hotel GP LLC, 432 Pennsylvania Avenue, in the amount of $54,862.80?
So moved.
Second.
Krista?
Good evening. This is the Starbucks that is attached to the hotel at 432 Pennsylvania Avenue. They've requested a partial release in the amount of $54,862.80, and we are recommending that this amount be released, after which there would still be a balance of $31,476.54.
Excellent, thank you. Any board comments or questions?
Krista, what work is left to perform?
They're substantially complete and open. The bulk of the remaining work is related to ADA ramps in front of the hotel entrance.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Any public comments? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Do I have a motion to approve expenditures totaling $2,269,340.01 and payroll totaling $639,034.62 and pension paid costs totaling $5,444.97 for November 2021?
So moved.
Second.
Any board comments? Any public comments? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Do I have a motion to authorize the removal of a heritage tree at 6007 West Valley Green in accordance with Chapter 55-4B6B?
So moved.
Second.
John?
Good evening, Supervisors. So the Shade Tree Commission at their meeting Tuesday heard from the applicant, the County of Montgomery, that is, concerning the removal of a heritage at 6007 West Valley, heritage tree at 6007 West Valley Green Road. The removal of the heritage tree was the only matter of the ordinance that was subject, for the meeting. The Shade Tree Commission recommended the approval of the removal of the heritage tree contingent upon replacement in accordance with the ordinance. So that would be 16 replacement trees, of which at least 50% must be native, and all of which must have a 3-inch caliper, and authorize the use of a neighboring site owned by the township to plant those trees as well. So with that single condition, they recommended approval to the Board of Supervisors for removal.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
And I realize that my list here is out of order, so
Yeah, you're fine.
to amend the agenda?
No,
No,
this is not, this is part of the
Okay.
agenda.
Okay.
Chair Nestor, if I
Yeah.
could just recognize somebody, in the audience is Donna Fabry with the Montgomery County Planning Commission, who has been working tirelessly on this project for the Spences and in an effort to get the cross-county trail, this connection piece. This is a huge piece for them to actually move that forward. So I just wanted to recognize her efforts on behalf of the county and this project, and working with the township on this. I know it's been a bit of a long time coming. This is a big piece and a big stepping stone so that they can proceed with construction of the cross-county trail.
Excellent. And thank you for your patience. This is a long time coming. It's also been a long meeting that you've been patient sitting through. Thank you for that. Any board comments or questions? No. Any public comments? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? No. Motion carries. Okay, do I have a motion to amend the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
You have to read that.
so I think we are just doing
You have to
Patrice?
read this part.
I do.
Right. Chair Nestor, if you could just read the reason into the
Yeah,
record, we
so-
have to do that per the
The reason we're
requirement.
amending the agenda is the action took place following the last meeting of the Shade Tree Commission on Tuesday, December 7th.
Correct.
So we are good.
And then you can read the motion.
Oh, I'm on the same page now. Got it. So now, do I have a motion to accept the resignation of Patrice Tureen from the Shade Tree Commission and thank her for her years of service on the Shade Tree Commission?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments? I don't know. Should we let her?
It's a resounding
Resign?
yes, right? The second one of the night.
Thank you, Patrice, for your time on the Shade Tree. I am thrilled that you are resigning for the Shade Tree to join us up here on the board. Any other public or comments? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. I think, do we have any board member comments?
Before we
might.
adjourn, I would like to, I reserved my comments.
We haven't passed this part of the meeting.
I know, we
Part of the
reserved,
meeting ended already.
because Michael, this is our relationship, isn't it? So I reserved my comments because all the girls were here and they wanted to get out of here. So Michael, you and I have known each other for a long time. We served in various capacities together, and I've been looking forward to this day for a long time. But in all honesty,
This is a roast. Are we starting a roast?
so in all honesty, and I promise I'll be quick because I know everybody wants to go eat. I've watched you coach baseball, and I remember when we were much younger and we began together, I was always inspired by the way you coach these kids, and it really says something about you when you inspired these kids to do things. You treated them all absolutely the same, no matter how good or talented they were, or the kids who didn't get to play as much. You gave them the confidence, and it really taught me a lot about you. It showed me that you have the ability to change the world. You know, you really do, because when you're able to do that with a youth, treat them all the same, and give them the confidence to do better, you've changed the world. And that's a big deal. And you carried that type of mentality with you through everything you touched. You know, I called a few people and I said, when you think of Michael Drossner, what do you think about? And they all said, well, Michael treats everyone with fairness, and he treats everybody with dignity and respect. I've watched you deal with adversity over and over again. You dealt with everybody with calmness and fortitude, and that says a lot. You know, and you brought that to the township, and a couple things that are for sure. You've left everything you've touched in a better place. You know, we're in a better shape in this township than we were 6 years ago because of you. These kids that you've worked with over the years in Whitemarsh Little League are in better shape because of you. Our community is in better shape because of Michael Drossner. We need more Michael Drossners out there. So anyway, it's been a pleasure working with you. I hope we never have to do it again. But it's been a pleasure. And I know you're going to be successful in whatever you decide to go on to. And I'm sure your family's really happy to have you back. Mindy left already, which says something about that. But anyway, congratulations and thanks for all you've done.
Fran, very kind words, but I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
You bet.
Michael, I've only had an opportunity to work with you for 2 years, and most of that's been over Zoom. But for the few times that we've had the opportunity to be here in person, I've come to appreciate your wit, appreciate the sidebars that we've had, and I'm going to miss you. So, and thank you for everything you've done for the township.
Thanks, man.
I'm going to say really short and sweet. I haven't known you that long. We've known each other through other people through the years, but I've had the pleasure of getting to know you these last few years, and I appreciate having you on the board. We'll miss you, and you always have a kind word, and that's greatly appreciated by many.
Thanks, JC. This is nice. We can keep going.
No, that's all you get.
Next, who's next?
Can I say something?
There we go. Yeah.
No, I just want to say to Michael, I appreciate all the support on behalf of the township staff. We appreciate you always supporting us, working with you. I've got to know you a little bit through sports as well, in addition to everything that you've done for the township. So just on behalf of the township staff, thank you for all you did, and thank you for your support of the township.
Thanks, Rick.
And I would like to say something as well, Michael. It's really a pleasure to work for you and work for the board. I've known you a long time before you were on the board through politics and things like that. And what everyone said, and Fran and everyone said, is exactly right. You are righteous, and you have a streak in you that is fair. And if you believe something is wrong, you speak truth to power. So I really appreciate that in you, Michael. And I'm glad you're my friend.
Thanks, Sean. I appreciate it.
Aww,
That was good.
that's
Yeah.
very sweet.
Very nice. Yeah.
Well, thank you again, Michael, and you do challenge us. And, you know, I appreciate what everybody's saying about the fairness, because it's very true. And you challenge people, even those people that are good friends. If it's something that you don't agree with, you're going to challenge it. So I hope the board continues to keep that mentality. We may be of the same party, but we need to challenge each other to move things forward. That doesn't mean that we always agree, but we can disagree kindly. And you bring that, so thank you.
Thanks, Laura. And, you know, I know I spoke already, but, you know, thanks again to everyone here in the room for all of your support over the years making this possible. Thanks to everyone up here on the dais with me, serving with me, and continuing to serve this township, right? Like, someone's got to look out for finances and services and our employees and our constituents. So, you know, thank you all for being here and continuing to do that. And I look forward to coming back and, you know, give my name and my address and, you know, chiming in sometimes.
And we will treat you fairly.
We'll see.
I appreciate it, thank you. And we're excited to have Patrice. She's in the audience tonight, but that'll be the last night that she's there, so you two will swap out roles. Do we have any public comments? Yes.
Lisa Clancy, Director of the William Jeans Library. I would just like to thank the Township and the Board of Supervisors for your support this year. It's obviously been very challenging to run a public service entity like the library during these times. Your support means a lot. On behalf of the staff, thank you for your consideration of our budget request. And Michael, thank you for your time as the liaison to the library. We greatly appreciate your support through all those years.
Thank you, Lisa, for everything you do. Thanks.
And thank you also for your patience sitting through the whole meeting with us. If there are any other comments, do I have a motion to, I just would like to announce that we did have an executive session where we discussed litigation and real estate. Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Good night, Whitemarsh.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.